else anyone wants to say before? Oh, it says an error occurred, right? So it's a good thing. It says I'm live, but I'm going to try again just because I'm worried. Okay. Anything else anyone want to share before we kick off?
I wanted to share that Josh had the idea that we would all begin with a poem that we came into Stone. Josh, you tell him.
Oh, well, I just had this idea that we would read one that either we read at that graduating reading or we're working on in Stone Coast Days or that came out of Stone Coast Time, and then read newer work. And the other two seemed amenable to that.
Thank you. Everyone, if you're just joining us, my name is Troy Myers. I'm a graduate of the Stone Coast MFA in Creative Writing, the University of Southern Maine. And last January, my classmate and I, Amanda Clough, decided to start a reading series for our alumni friends. It was during the deep part of the pandemic, which we're kind of going into another deep part, which is difficult. But it was a way to move out of that isolation. And since then, we went weekly all the way through May and then intermittently during the summer. And we're kicking off tonight for fall. We will have Sunday night weekly readings from Stone Coast alumni, faculty, and guests, all the way up until almost Christmas. So Amanda couldn't be with us tonight, but I always say hi to her mom, who watches, my mom, who also watches. And tonight we have three fantastic guests and people that I just met tonight. So all from the class of 2011. We have Josh Davis, the security, and Carrie Worrella. All poets. And to my knowledge, it's the first time we've had three poets in one night. I'm super excited as a lover of poetry and writer of poems myself. So that's what I've got to say. Let's go ahead and start with our first reader. Josh said you would like to go first, correct? No, not Josh. Liz is going first.
Yeah.
All right, hang on a sec. We'll pop up, Josh, and bring you back when it's your turn in just a few minutes. And Carrie, same thing. So, Alyssa, you said you work at the Poetry Barn.
Yes, I founded the Poetry Barn back in, actually right after I graduated from Stone Coast. I had an MA in media arts, a job in web development, and with my new MFA in poetry, I thought it'd be a good idea to do online workshops. So before the pandemic, like way before, we were actually one of the first literary organizations to offer online poetry workshops. And we've been doing it ever since. We began online, and then 5 years ago, we bought an actual barn, and we started to have in-person workshops, readings, events, and retreats. And it's been a lot of fun.
Fantastic. So do you have other poets that work with you there, or who else is involved?
You know, Josh is a wonderful teaching artist with the Poetry Barn, and I have a wonderful, just group of teaching artists in general, but they are dispersed geographically, and we just communicate online.
Okay. And if we want to know more about the Poetry Barn, there's a website, I take it?
Yes, poetrybarn.org.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Good
you.
for you. I think that's a fantastic project.
I
look forward to it.
Yeah, it's a passion project. Oh, I didn't mention the barn is also a lending library of poetry books. So we are building our collection. I'm upstairs in the barn right now, but downstairs we have 3,500 volumes of contemporary poetry cataloged in a database. And we just kind of dipped a toe into retail. We're beginning to sell books as well as lend them. So come visit us. We'd love to see you.
We will. Poetrybarn.org.
Yes.
Are you grant support? Is that how you're doing that?
No, it's an LLC. I did just start a nonprofit this past year during the pandemic. That was my passion project and kept me sane. And so now with that, definitely we'll be applying for grant support and hopefully doing a lot more fun things.
Fantastic. I love hearing the projects the alumni are doing. That is fantastic.
Right.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And thank you for getting the three of you together tonight. I know Josh should have arranged it, but I know, listen, you said all three of you read together for your graduate reading.
We did.
Yes.
We did.
And together again. Very cool. What are you going to share tonight?
Really excited. Pardon?
Oh, what do you have for us tonight? What are you going to share?
Oh, I have 4 poems for you tonight.
Great.
So Josh had the idea that we'd all share a poem that we crafted during our Stone Coast period. This first poem goes way back to my application packet for Stone Coast. And at the time I was living in Brooklyn, New York. And this is a love letter to Brooklyn. Dear Brooklyn, how long have I breathed in your feral gardens, fermented tunnels, sweat-licked shores? Your natives sulk over the Immigration Act, but which of them would not give me, in the blur of a vanishing R train, the salt off their skin? Brooklyn, you're a Dutch oven in August. Assembly lines of laundry hung limp over egg carton lawns. Fishermen lure prey with chicken legs, hawk it for just enough to buy a 5th and a lotto, and can't believe their luck. Hookah bars spill cloying smoke into oily buckets of brine-swarming olives and flies. Broken land, your cracks swallow up small children whole. This time of year, they scurry to your coast. The Russian Riviera, the leather-skinned waitress at Rocco's says, scooping her tip. Come September, they'll forsake your freak shows and cyclones. The best time for Coney Island, according to a pair of swans from Sheepshead Bay. Knife-sharpening trucks refuse to quit. Their brash bells clash with Mr. Softy's sing-song chimes. Lime-cool breezes baptize my brow, over and over whispering, welcome home, sister. You belong to me now. And 5 years ago, after 30 years in Brooklyn, I moved upstate to the Catskills near Woodstock, New York. The town is actually called West Hurley, but the famous small town is Woodstock. And I wrote for a short period of time for the local newspaper called the Woodstock Times. Sadly, that folded just before with the pandemic. It had a wonderful, rich section of classified ads, and this next poem is about that paper. Woodstock Times. In the almanac, hip to hip with penny socials, potluck dinners, tractor safety classes, knitting circles. You'll find workshops on how to find your spirit animal, recycle candle wax, fly a kite, learn Tai Chi, I Ching, Qigong, sit in silent meditation, cleanse your chakras with celestial channeling, find your cause with speed activism, and yoga, kids yoga, yoga pizza parties, reggae yoga. The drumming circle thunders a herd of hoofs over the village green. Sweet, slow djembe, fat, wet congas, the chomp and spank, the punch and thump, noise, peaceful noise. There is no head nor tail, only a whirling dervish of hands, torsos of our tribes becoming one talking drum. I go to the lodge to cry in my beer for what is and what was, stare at the clock made from the arms of Levon's guitars. The bartender handshakes cannabis to a man in black and his cowboy booted missus, and they too are my tribe. But what I love is the way ideals are worn on organic cotton sleeves, how rock and roll rings from reclaimed woods, how poetry drips from each native honeyed tongue. I really love it up here. I hope you can tell. It's a short day trip from here to Saratoga, where the famous Yaddo residency artist takes place. I wish I could say I was there for a residency. I was just visiting the formal gardens for a little birthday celebration. The next poem was written right around the dawn of the Me Too movement, and the goddess of dawn, Aurora, is mentioned at the end. The fifth of 12 fantasies. Walking formal gardens in my birthday's dawn, I gather fallen rose petals, bow to seasoned statuary, speak of what it means to be seen, not heard, to watch and learn how to secure first seat in orchestra. To be bird with most cunning call, adorn native plumage with foreign silks and borrowed kimonos. Trigger me and I'll demonstrate I am not to be twirled with. I'm a princess packing beneath fair trade sheets. My feet wear high tops, shikgers, ruby sequins, blue stockings. Last summer we soared, playing a score for tenor voices. In which key do we tune to tackle the notorious saraband? Which key will unlock this heritage rose morn? The water is running pink, damn it, Aurora. The water is warm. I pulled that one out in light of Texas's recent all-near abortion ban, and I keep hoping that I don't have to pull out my angry feminist poems, but here we are. The last poem I'm going to read is it was the title poem of my next manuscript, entitled The Change. This is my body, golden tattered, sun-beaten, oxygen, bacteria, tea. I am younger than this. I sex the dark, beget the dark. I am younger than the water. Widening, I taste the rage of sea. O island infant, the light you lactate, shape still yearned for. Sometimes we begin without, filling empty pockets with semi-precious stones. Once, if ever, show me I already bear more weight than I can ever carry home. Thank you for listening.
Wow, Alyssa. Thank you for sharing. That first poem you wrote before you got into Stone Coast?
Brooklyn.
Was it Line Cool Breezes Baptize My Brow?
Yes.
That's a heck of a good line.
Thank you, Troy. I remember Annie Finch calling me with my acceptance call. She might have referenced that particular line. So,
well, then I feel like even better pointing it out. Is the dark, beget the dark?
I sex the dark, beget the dark.
Are you publishing now, or do you have a book out, or where can we read more of your work?
Yes, I have one book of poetry out. Pardon me, Two Faint Lines in the Violet from Negative Capability Press, 2014. And I'll have a second collection of poetry come out shortly, within a month or so, I hope. Also from Negative Capability Press. And as I mentioned, the original title was The Change. The working title now is The Whispering Wall.
That is wonderful. I love the name of the press, by the way.
Negative Capability, yes.
Being a Keats fan myself. Well, congratulations. We look forward to hearing from you again. Please come back.
Thank you, Troy.
The Poetry Barn. I think that's very exciting. I hope someday I get out there when the barn is active and I can visit and spend some time there.
I hope so too. I look forward to when we can all gather safely together again. Actually, we had our first live reading 2 weeks ago, so it's starting,
Good. Fantastic.
Yeah.
We'll have you back. You can tell us more about it, hear more of those wonderful poems. That was truly some gifted writing. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Troy.
You're very welcome. Hey, everybody. If you're just joining, my name is Troy Myers. I'm a graduate of the Stonecoast MFA in Creative Writing, and I am co-hosting with Amanda Plow, my classmate, a Sunday night reading series for alumni, faculty, and special guests of the Stonecoast program. So we just heard from Lissa Kiernan. We have 3 poets reading tonight, all from the class of 2011. They told me they were excited to be back together again, and I love when we see and hear that. One of the great things about hosting this reading series Sunday nights is that we see friendships reconnect. I get to make new friends, hear wonderful work. So thank you so much for reading. Our next reader is, and I'm unusually doing the tech and the hosting tonight, so bear with me if I'm a little clunky. Our next reader tonight is Carrie. Hey, Carrie.
Hi, Troy.
And the last name is?
Warla.
Warla. Thank you.
Yes.
I got it wrong again. What is that?
It is Finnish.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
How long has your family been in the States and not in Finland? Do you know? Or
All 4 of my dad's grandparents emigrated from Finland.
have you been back to visit?
Very, very briefly. I got to spend about a day and a half in Helsinki at the end of a different trip, and I really want to go back someday.
I hear it's wonderful there.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, what did you bring tonight? What are you sharing with us?
I'm starting off with Josh's idea of, for some reason, I could remember the first poem that I read in our graduate reading. I have no idea what else I read that day, but for some reason I remember the first one. So I'm going to start with that, and then share some poems from the Bear River writing conference that's in northern Michigan, and that's been the closest writing family I have been able to find since Stonecoast. So I thought I would share a couple of poems from that.
Fantastic. Well, the time is all yours. We're ready to hear what you've got. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Kissing the Fire Eater. Him, all scorch and cinder. You, lips made of moth. The plume of heat that engulfs the night air sucks stars into his waiting mouth, makes orphans of exhale and reason alike. Resist the heady temptation to curl wine under your tongue. Instead, discover the delicacy laced in paraffin. Always carry a lighter. Brace for the inevitable blister. Learn to hunger for soot and sear. That finger of sweat tracing your jawbone, racing for your singed larynx, will become a drug. Rubes will never taste the same again. Be warned, though, for all his burn, his smolder, his now, he will never breathe, never take you into his lungs. In his line of work, to inhale is to wink at death. You will always be alone in your half of the inferno. So I mentioned that I would read some poems that I wrote up at Bear River. And I hate to do a lengthy introduction, but I do just have to share where this came from. This piece was the prompt of writing a memory that happened earlier in our lives from the point of view of someone else who was there, who would be an unreliable narrator. So I wrote this piece about the time that I scared the hell out of my favorite English teacher in high school. She took a group of us to the Detroit Institute of Arts for a field trip, and I ditched the field trip to go look at everything in the museum with a couple of my friends. And she was terrified, and and I always felt bad about that. And so this is written from her point of view at the end of her life when she was in a home for dementia. And as much as I tried to write a sestina the entire time I was at Stonecoast, I didn't succeed until my first trip to Bear River. This is Memory of Museum of Memory. I think there was a girl. No, not a girl, a woman. No, not exactly a woman, a cusp? Yes, I have it now. That's right, the woman, that was me. A careful museum of denim skirts and upswept hair, but this other, this becoming, she was combat boots and tangle. No, wingtips and houndstooth. Wait, I've tangled things up again, haven't I? Could that be a girl? No, I've got it. It's just that she is just so other. All transition and artifice bending toward woman. Chimera emerging from youth's wallpapered museum into an arm's length shove back aimed right at the face of this Central Park homecoming right small town. What? I'm not there anymore? I've tangled that too? Is this even a where or just a dusty museum of whens? Never mind, I'll just forget again, but this girl, she'll find this here, this when, this equinox into woman. I know she knows how to slip between the musts that others cling to. Scared me so badly the day, it was just the other day, wasn't it? She fled the field trip, vanished right between the school bus diesel stink and the woman ticking off names, trying to impose order on a tangle of high school students. And now we are -1 girl, and how did I lose her that fast? It's like the museum just swallowed her. And now the sweatered museum docents are peeling away with clusters of other school kids, calves forced to follow, but this normally good girl, no, look sideways past her dangerous decoys. It's all right there. Straight A's, one of the few constants in this tangle of calendar squares starting to blur and fuzz, and this woman who can't even handle a handful of high schoolers, this confused woman is me, isn't it? But any minute now, that museum is going to cough back out that almost, that tangled knot of girl woman brimming with everything the bored others didn't see. Only she devoured all of the art that day, did it right. And she will read the pride hidden in the reprimands. This girl, no, she must be a woman by now, isn't she? All that other, the museum, that was years ago, wasn't it? But she'll write, won't she? Find me in this dusty tangle? I think there was a girl. And that is for Alice. So my next trip to Bear River, we had an assignment. We were paired up with other writers, and my partner in workshop was someone who had just lost her beloved dog, and I had lost my soul dog right after my first trip to Bear River. So and we had to write poems to each other. So I wrote this one for her, and it's a tough one to get through. I'm going to try not to cry. You will know when you are ready is a lie. It will get easier with time is also a lie. Rather, this new and ragged space will elbow its way in, so hushed and insistent that there will be days it will merely hover at the edge of your vision, or lodge in your ears like the tinny whine I carry with me always and sometimes manage to drown out. These will be the good days. But just like the nights when my ears hold the sea and the pressure anchors me, and over I crack my jaws wide into a vacant scream to try to ease it, so too will this new and empty ocean drown you, and there is nothing to do but surrender when it does. I have told you of good death, and of other humans willing to hold vigil over the still and cooling shell that held my heart, of slipping my grief out the side door. I could have gone on about how I was held up and together by family, how perfect the warm angles of sun were that day, and how we somehow spent the next hour among animals and the next out to lunch, and how my tongue managed to laugh even if it couldn't taste, but all of this would sound like a lie. So I would have to tell you too of the next day, of the doorbell announcing my heart had returned as ash, and how I suddenly desperately needed to see it, how when my scrabbling fingers couldn't discover how to pry open the plastic container posing as marble, I became a splintered and keening howl until the floor returned me to myself. The shifted shadows and raw cave of my throat hinting how much time I had lost. And this, I know, you will recognize as truth. I've got one last poem to share. As I was really digging through old files, I thought I would share the very first poem that I wrote after graduating from Stone Coast. I got home in July, and in August, a dear friend of mine, a wonderful poet, amazing songwriter, David Blair, passed away unexpectedly. And he is one of those people who, we all say we want a celebration instead of a grim funeral when we die. And he is the kind of person for whom that actually happened. And so this is about that day, and it is processional for D. Blair. When you died, a parade poured out of your mouth. Minuscule tubas honked, butterfly wing parasols waved, a dreadlocked conductor led the way, shrilling his whistle, stomping his feet in syncopated 4/4 time across the pavement of your chest, trying to stir an echo thumping up through the soles of his feet. The police, bewildered, didn't know what to make of the mournful hullabaloo, tried to cross your lips with yellow tape. But when the drumline burst through, the cops shrugged, flipped on their swirling lights, and escorted the procession down your arms, over the steel string calluses of your fingers, and out onto the pockmarked streets of Detroit. The coroner tried to close the smiling gate of your mouth, but a never-ending magician's scarf of marginalia just kept bubbling out. Guitar picks and drag queens, circus freaks and preachers, manhole-covered tambourines, all of it rolling down your legs, bouncing over your feet, clattering its jubilescent way down woodward. They say Rodin's mock thinker danced a rusted jig that day. They say Rivera's industry skidded to a halt, workers and foremen alike peeling off their gray painted hats. They say, for a moment, the air was made of music. Thank you.
Oh, Carrie. So next time I have to read my poems, I'm going to have you read my poems. You are a tremendous dramatic reader.
Oh, thank you.
And such gorgeous lines in there. The raw cave of my throat. You guys are a strong class, 2011.
We had quite a crew.
Yes, for sure. Were you all three of you were the only poets that year? Do you remember? Or
No, there were at least 4 or 5 others, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, we were the very first class that took meter from Annie Finch as the very first workshop. So that was some bonding right there.
Oh, that had to be fun. I had that with Kate Johnson and Alexandra, and I learned a lot. I still use it. I still think about it. All right. Good for you. Are you publishing anything, or trying to publish, or have you published anything?
I have. I've got a couple of manuscripts that have been looking for a home. My collection of circus sideshow persona pieces that I've been working on since Stone Coast. Still looking for a home, and another collection. I've kind of put that aside lately, though. I've been focusing more on theater. I've gotten back into theater for the first time in many years. And I'm actually, my current writing project is I'm working on a graphic novel.
Okay. So you've done acting in the past. or you've done theater?
A long time ago. I started in theater in college for like a minute. But then I was active in the poetry slam community for a time. So,
Because you are truly a fine reader, as I said. So it's
Thank
wonderful
you.
acting experience. What drew you to circus sideshow persona poems?
yeah, you can wrong shoulder. Yeah, yeah. I've just always been fascinated by the circus, and right before I applied for Stone Coast, out of the blue, I wrote these couple of persona poems from the point of view of a sword swallower and a tattooed lady. And it just grew from there. And my third semester project was actually a one-woman show based on the tattooed lady poems that I performed at Stone Coast, our graduating residency.
Fantastic. No, I was very impressed with your work. We've had two outstanding readers tonight. Stone Coast was good long before my class got there. It's good to know that. Thank you so much for coming on, Carrie. We'll have you back and read some more of your wonderful work. Good luck with those manuscripts. I know that.
All right. Thanks so much, Troy.
Take care. Hey, everybody. If you're just joining us, my light is coming in here. My name is Troy Myers. That didn't help. I'm a graduate of the Stone Coast MFA in Creative Writing at the University of Southern Maine, where I studied poetry. And last winter, my colleague and I, Amanda Plow, a classmate of mine, decided to start a Sunday night reading series for alumni of the program. Stone Coast is a national program, and it's been around a while. So we have friends and friends we haven't met all over the country and even across the world. It has been a sincere joy for me to host these Sunday night readings. I hope you turn in future weeks. We should have a reading every Sunday night between now and Christmas time or near Christmas. That's what I'm hoping for. One of the things that I love to see is, as tonight, a group of students who have not worked together since they graduated, reading together again for the first time since they were in the program. And I know for myself, the best thing I've taken from this, it's like a folk tale, you know, if you don't have the magic scarf, ring, bread, handkerchief, horse, shoes, you lose your magic powers, Samson's hair. If I didn't have this, I would not be writing poems. This has got me back onto the page. And so I'm so grateful to hear such outstanding work. We have one more reader tonight from the great class of 2011. His name is Josh Davis. Josh, I'm going to go ahead and bring you on, and you can say hi. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. And Josh, you put this group together, correct?
That's what we're saying. Yeah, that's what we're claiming. Yeah.
That's how I remember it. And I'm super grateful that you did. You have fine colleagues.
Yeah, I have to say, I no longer recall in what order Carrie and Lissa and I read a decade ago, but I feel really chagrined to be trying to go last. We'll see how I hold up.
They were both pretty damn good, Josh.
Yeah, they're awesome. I know.
But I know you're going to rock it. What are you working on? What did you bring tonight for us to hear?
Well, I had the idea that we would launch this, each of us, by reading work that we had kind of instantiated when we were Stone Coast students. Uh-huh. And so I'm going to start with a couple of pieces that I wrote in Stone Coast Days that then ended up in an anthology edited by Annie Finch and Alex Oliver called Measure for Measure. And so in Stone Coast Days, I was really enthralled with obscure meters. Like the weirder the rhythm, the more attracted to it I was.
Cool.
But sometimes that meant that the poems were really short because I couldn't sustain it for very long, you know? So I'm going to start with something called Alcaic for Morning.
Great. It's all you, Josh.
Okay. Alcaic for Morning. Blackbird, my red-winged black cousin, my wild throat. You open doors, red-black doors in the world you give. Your marble eye reflects how the sky rises out of the ocean, quiet and full. So that was our Alcaic, one of the weirdest meters that has managed to survive its way into English. And my Stone Coast story is an odd one because at the same time that I was a Stone Coast student, I was also an MFA student at the University of Mississippi. And so I took some of my Stone Coast leanings toward meter and form, and I inflicted them on my classmates at the University of Mississippi, even though I did totally separate work for both programs. And so this next poem it was my attempt to use the pressure that meter and form can impose to deal with exceptionally difficult subject matter. Stain. At the back of my ache, as if ache were a cave, sits the day still alive when my mother turned 8, and her father stood close in the hollow of night, his scarred thumb on the knot at her heel, then her knee. When I was a Stonecoast student, I was lucky enough to work with Annie Finch a lot. And then at the end of my time during our graduating residency, I was like a TA in the meter workshop with Annie Finch and with Kazem Ali. And Annie told me that I wasn't allowed to truly graduate until I had written 8 sapphics. And that took me from approximately 2011 until the beginning of the pandemic. But these are 2 that, as I said, ended up in that anthology, Measure for Measure, called Bindings. So 2 sapphics. Moon dark, open, yellow lit, your death led me. Through the hillside under its quiet, leaves hung, thousands, 0, shivering downward, pointed, glittering, frozen. Break me broken. 5 years of losing, lost now. Uncle, father, grandmothers, grandpa, listen. Now we leaf dance into a bluer silence, not yet our bluest. I'm going to change tacks now and read some more recent work. These last 2 poems were both published recently in the Midwest Quarterly, and I thank the editor of the Midwest Quarterly, Lori Martin, in case she's listening. This one's called Sin Canes for the 3rd year, and it's about the 3rd anniversary of my mother's death. Your death, mother, reaches switches, stove knobs. Your death crowds me and begs for crackers and juice. I could measure death's height in pencil marks, bedtimes, marble blue rages, paint streaks thick as wrists. If I were brave, I would guide death into shallow water. That's it. Kick your legs. I'm not. No, we'd lie close, closer than you and I ever dared. Dazzle of yellow jackets too near. And I want to close with a poem that is sort of an attempt on my part to examine grief over time and also to wrangle with what it has meant to be somebody for whom the pandemic in which we are all living is not the first. To my father, dour sweetheart, I could cut countless holes in the night's fishnets to uncage my keening. A decade teams. 11 years? Speak. I'll walk out shivering, masked under a greenish antiseptic sky. I'm living through my 2nd plague. The first one cradled us like a mother until she called you indoors for dinner. I'm still waiting. And that's what I have for you. Thank you so much.
Josh, that was so compressed and so strong.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much.
I know your audio is a little out of sync on my
end.
I'm
sorry to hear that.
Well, but I've seen that happen before, and then it's fine in the recording. So I think we're going to be okay.
Oh, okay.
If not, I'm going to have you come back and read all those poems again.
Oh, that's so nice. That's kinder than I deserve, but I appreciate it.
No, that is outstanding. I feel, it's going to sound silly, I feel at home tonight. Because I've heard from 3.
That doesn't sound silly. That's a lovely thing for you to say.
From 3 phenomenal poets. I love all the genres that come on. I mean, I do.
Yeah.
I read I'm into that. But I truly feel at home amongst this group of really authentic persons. So thank you
so much. Yeah.
And congratulations on the publications in Measure for Measure and also
thanks.
Quarterly. That's a pretty big magazine, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me feel humble to be in the Midwest Quarterly.
That's a good reaction. I'm going to go ahead and bring your friends back. I think
Yeah,
there's
please do.
Carrie and Lisa, if you're around and would like to say hi. So,
Hi.
Hello. God, it was good to hear you both read again.
I felt the same way.
Wow.
When you were reading the dog poem, Carrie, can I just say, like, well, she said she's not going to cry, but like I'm crying, so she can just go to hell, like, yeah. Thank you, both of you.
Yeah, you
God.
remember my Bella.
Of course I do. Yeah.
So how did it feel to read, everybody? Fun? Together. To read together.
Yeah.
It felt like coming home.
Yep.
Yeah.
My poetry family.
Yeah. Yeah. Welcome to the family, Troy.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
You're one of us now.
I have all your emails. I mean, this is sort of our fall kickoff, even though we didn't really broadcast it. It's our first of what we hope is a consecutive fall series. And it could not have gone better. I am so pleased with all the poems you guys wrote tonight. And I'm pleased to have met you and to know you. And I hope we stay in some kind of touch.
That was great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you want to say before we all sign off and have dinner and do whatever else we're going to do?
Just thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Josh, for pulling this in.
Oh, yeah.
And Troy, thank you so much for hosting this.
Thank you. I will say, typically Amanda's in the behind the scenes producing, and she had to work. And so I was doing the technology and the hosting, and it was okay.
You did great.
It was my first time, so thank you. So if any glitches, it was on me. But sincerely, I am floating after that experience. So we will have you all back, and thank you for coming on.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Troy. And if you come back, will you read a poem or two yourself?
Yeah, please.
I will, absolutely. I will absolutely do that.
Okay, great. Thank you.